4 minutes. Just for minutes after takeoff, a plane disappears from radar. What could have happened? On January 9, 2021, Sriwijaya Air Flight 182 was flying from Jakarta to Punjab. On board were 62 people, including 50 passengers and 12 crew members. The Boeing 737-700 took off from Jakarta at 2:36 p.m. local time. 4 minutes later, air traffic control tried to contact the pilots of Flight 1082 to ask them to climb to 29,000 feet, but there was no reply. At 2:40 p.m., the plane's transponder, which helps the planes show up on radar, stopped sending signals. And at 2:41 p.m., the last known position of the plane was recorded by secondary radar over the island of Langkang, 25 nautical miles from its final destination. Flight 182 had crashed into the Java Sea. A search and rescue operation was launched immediately. Body bags were spotted in the water, and people were desperately pulling survivors from the wreckage. 54 people were rescued alive, but 50 others did not make it. An investigation was then launched to determine the cause of the crash. And here's what we know. The weather was fine at the time of the crash, so it wasn't a storm or bad weather that caused the crash. As the plane was taking off, the pilots were talking about a potential problem with the autopilot system. They were also discussing a technical malfunction with the auto throttle, which controls how much thrust goes to the engines. There was also a problem with the plane's indicator lights, which is why the pilots turned off the interior lights to focus on their instruments. The pilots were dealing with a lot of technical problems. But did this cause the crash? Well, data from the flight showed that at 2:39 p.m., as the plane was climbing, the pilots engaged the autopilot system and the plane started to bank to the left. They fought to regain control of the plane for the next 25 seconds. At one point, the captain said, "We have a problem," before they both started making noises. After that, there was silence. The cockpit voice recorder captured sounds consistent with a stall warning, followed by the sound of impact with water. According to the official investigation, the probable cause of the crash was a malfunction in the autopilot system, combined with the crew's failure to recognize that the plane was stalling. In simpler terms, the plane's computer was telling the pilots to turn left. The pilots didn't realize that the plane was losing speed, and they didn't do anything to prevent the crash. However, the family members of the victims believe that there was more to the crash than just technical failure. One victim's brother told the press, "I don't believe that only a software glitch caused the crash. There must have been other contributing factors, and they may be right." Investigators did find some evidence of a fire on board the plane just before it crashed. Now, it's very rare for planes to catch fire in mid-air. So, what could have caused a fire on this plane? Well, one theory is that the plane's lithium-ion batteries caught fire. These are the batteries that power things like mobile phones and laptops, and they can be very dangerous if they're not handled properly. In 2016, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner caught fire in the United Kingdom. It was later found that the fire was caused by a battery cell that was not properly installed. The heat from an adjacent battery cell then caused the flammable material in the poorly installed battery to ignite. This led to a small fire in the electric bay. However, the fire did not cause the plane to crash. That fire was detected and dealt with before it became a major problem. So could something similar have happened to Flight 182? Well, it's possible. Investigators did find traces of fire on the plane's data and voice recorders. However, the recordings themselves were not damaged. This suggests that any fire on board the plane was small and short. At this point, we may never know exactly what caused the crash of Sriwijaya Air Flight 182. But what we do know is that this was a terrible tragedy that could have been avoided. All aircraft are thoroughly checked before they take off to ensure that they're safe to fly. In the case of Flight 1082, something went wrong despite these checks. Maybe the checks missed something, or maybe something new went wrong after the checks were completed. We may never know the answer to this question, but we do know that this was a preventable tragedy. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share this video. Also, check out my other videos and leave a comment below with your ideas for future videos. And here's another video you might like.